For a few more participants to just come in because we just released the email for people to like join this workshop. So
Sounds good. So Aditya, is that how I pronounce your name? Aditya? Are you the main organizer of this?
me alongside Krishnan, who's in this meeting, and Sanya, who wasn't able to. I think she's going to be joining in really shortly.
Okay, cool. It's very impressive of you guys because I saw on LinkedIn that you're only in 8th grade. Yeah, wow. Very impressive. And you're based in New Jersey?
Yeah,
How many years has this been running for? Is this the
this is
first
actually
year?
the first year. Yeah.
Wow. How did you guys like end up promoting and getting it across the states?
So basically, I feel like many major advertising happen through like other in Discord there are like community servers where they're like coding and helping out. So like majority, I would say like 50% of the participants came from different coding backgrounds because of these community servers that we were able to partner with. And then the rest of like the international participants actually came from DevPost, and many of them were interested in that. So we found it really nice to have like all like this crazy group of participants decide to come and participate in Next Up Hacks.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, a lot of our students at Beta Camp are also part of like Hack Club, which I know is um pretty big in connecting a lot of different hackathons. So I've
Yeah.
spoken at a few with this same spiel. I think it'll be kind of interesting looking at what to build from more of a like business perspective. So hopefully it's helpful. Yeah. Just let me know whenever you want me to get started.
Got it. I think we'll wait for one more minute and then we'll get started because like this room is open. So this meeting, like I don't have to admit anyone. So I guess it's just you come in and get ready to listen to your amazing presentation. Okay, Abby, I think we should get started because I think it's going up ever so slowly. I think it's at 14 right now, and we're gonna have more people come in.
Yeah, no problem. I know that it takes a while, so it's okay. I can just get started. Not everyone needs to hear my intro. That's totally fine. Let me share my screen. That's weird. Okay, just give me 1 second, actually. I know how to share screen, but like, I actually just got a new laptop this week. So apparently I didn't give Zoom settings to share my screen. So
Oh,
hold on. You will not be able to record. I don't want to record. I haven't shared my screen since I got a new laptop. Oh, okay. You can see my desktop now, right?
perfect. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, I will present. Cool. So thanks for having me again, Aditya. I know that this was pretty last minute, but happy to be here. In this, I'm in the top screen. Okay, so in this talk, I'll talk about building a successful startup. So who am I first? My name is Ivy. I'm actually Canadian, so I went to university or college in Canada. I studied business, but I took a lot of different classes in computer science as well as math in the STEM fields. After I graduated, I moved directly to Silicon Valley in San Francisco, and I worked for a fintech startup called Vouch. And I was a business analyst and then a senior growth analyst there. Soon after, for most recently, I was a manager at Wish. If you keep up with tech news at all, Wish just filed for IPO about 2 days ago or last week sometime, this week sometime for sure. So I'm really, really excited about that. But I was managing business development in all regions outside of China. So it was my job to sign up new sellers onto the platform and ensure that they succeed. I actually spent all of 2019 traveling the world and interviewing tech leaders in global hubs, mostly emerging. So I went to Oceania, which wasn't really emerging, Southeast Asia, China. Unfortunately, I missed India, but I also went to Middle East and Africa. And there I interviewed top leaders like the C-suite executive of Alibaba. I interviewed the CMO of Jumia. Those are all in e-commerce. So have a lot of knowledge in the emerging market space as well, if you guys have any questions later on. Outside of work, I enjoy playing volleyball. I run marathons. I've been to Burning Man, which I'm not sure if you guys have heard of yet. You guys can search it up. It's pretty much this art festival in the desert. I really enjoy going to that every year. And I've also spent 3 months when I was on that trip in 2019 living in a camper van driving across New Zealand. So those are some fun experiences that I've had. So, but right now I am currently working on a startup of my own. One of the startups that I'm working on is called Beta Camp. And you guys should have received perhaps like an email sent by Next Steps. So you guys can just check it out from there. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I'm going to follow up with this after I teach my lesson. But for all of you guys, just to know, it's a 12-week immersive virtual program during the school year, run on weekends, but 75% of the work is done for you to actually build a startup during those 12 weeks. And the difference between this and maybe like hackathon is you can hack through an idea over a weekend, but we want you to build a revenue generating business within these 12 weeks. Or you can also choose to take part in a summer intensive 6-week program in July and August. It's for high school students for the school year program, but for the summer program, we also take students out of 8th grade going into high school. And the whole point of this is to really enable the next generation of leaders. We teach a lot of lessons in business tech and entrepreneurship. All of our seminars and lessons are run by industry professionals. So none of them are university students, definitely not high school students, all with 2 to 20 years of experience. And so in the past, we've had the head of innovation at IKEA, we've had the 10th engineer at DoorDash come teach lessons. And the highlight of this all is that you get to apply all the learnings directly into building your own startup. So this is something that we teach a lot at Beta Camp. So we show this pillars of a valid business idea. So this is before you even begin hacking, you begin thinking about what to build. What you should really, really think about is this idea something that I can build? Which is really what you're thinking about today or this weekend at a hackathon. But the other two are just as important. One is like, do people want it? Because what's the point of building something if no one uses it? And then if you want it to become a sustainable business, it'll need to make money somehow. It has to be something that people want enough and it brings someone enough value that they're willing to pay money for it over spending their money somewhere else, right? It's all about opportunity costs. So today in my keynote, I'm going to be focusing mostly on, do people want it? And how do you validate whether this is an idea of what you're going to build? You're going to spend all your time building this. Will people actually use it, and do people want it? So the first lesson here is that this framework is known pretty well in Silicon Valley as well as in the top MBAs. It's a form of structure used in design thinking. And we call it just iteration. So first you collect data and insights from the world. You figure out what the problem that you want to solve is. And then you come up with different ideas. Only then you brainstorm ideas after you already niche down a specific problem set and customers. Then you build. In fact, you want to try to build something with as little time and resources as possible, which is hackathons are really, really great for. In fact, my fiance and I actually do weekend hackathons once in a while just to test out different ideas. I think 24 hours, 48 hours is the perfect amount of time to build something really minimal. And then you launch it to the world. You get feedback, which becomes data again, and then you repeat this process. And at the beginning of a startup, this happens really fast, right? You're supposed to go through this cycle approximately every 2 weeks. That's what really early stage pre-series A, series B, meaning that you haven't raised more than like $1 million to $5 million yet in Silicon Valley. That's what they go through. Once you've raised a lot more and you already have a foundation product built, then you do these little iterations on new things that you want to try, but your big idea, you still want to improve it consistently. And so Fortune 500 companies, meaning like the Googles of the world and the Goldman Sachs, etc., they do this cycle maybe like once a year, once every 2 years, because it takes so long. It takes 3 months to gather data, another 3 months to ideate, and then another 5 months to build, and this just cycle slows down. But at the beginning, this should take like 2 weeks max. So let's go through step 1, gathering data, and what this means and why it's important. So what does this mean is that you want to define an opportunity area. This is really easy enough. I'm not sure if there's a theme for this hackathon, but an opportunity area could be like COVID-19 is causing problems for small businesses. It can be like the elderly. There's a lot more elderly out there and they are feeling lonely. Like these are all opportunity areas and trends and insights that you see from the world. You can generally gather these opportunity areas through trends and inflection points. So some inflection points can be like there's a new government policy that might enable like cannabis. You might look at like adoption trends. All of a sudden everyone's adopting online education. So these are just like top level, high level things that everyone can spot, areas of opportunity where there's tons of problems in this space. Next thing that you should do is niche down to a single customer. Because if you build just within an opportunity space, it's going to be really, really hard for you to build a product that really means something to one person. So how COVID, let's say, is affecting me versus affecting you guys as high school or middle school students is going to be completely different. And let's say we want to build, you're thinking about the accountability space because everyone's feeling demotivated at home. What will motivate me as a 27-year-old woman versus you guys as a middle school, high school student is going to be completely different. So you want to fixate on one customer and obsess over this customer's needs. Understand their needs, challenges, aspirations, and then you come up with a problem statement. So how might we help really high achieving high school students ensure that they write their college application essays on time or something? That's like super, super niche, but that means whatever you build will be really valuable to that specific demographic. So why is this important? Building for everyone equals building for no one. Even like Facebook, which seems, or Instagram seems like it's for everyone. Originally, when they first started, they were for that specific niche. Like Facebook started only on Harvard campus. Then they only expanded to universities. Then they expanded to high schools. Then they expanded to everyone. So you build super well for one niche, and then there's other things, and it's really, really easy to go move horizontally after you already have some level of traction with one customer niche. And it's also really important to not be a solution chasing a problem. So what that means is that you don't want to have this accountability app that you think is really great, but no one wants to use it, and you're just testing it out with different demographics. That will take a really, really long time. Because niching is actually very, like you go really, really deep. And so if you wanted to try out every single niche, it would take you a really long time if you didn't build for a specific niche. So what is a niche? Um, the biggest mistake that I see, and I've helped high school, middle school students launch over 30 startups through the last 6 months while I run beta camp, and is that you think that, oh, I want to build something in the fitness space, or I want to build something in the fitness for teen space, in this case, fitness for women. But that's not niche enough, right? Like there's a lot of different types of women, or different types of high school students. Is it the high school varsity athlete? Is it the high school like couch potato? Is it the high school like someone who has played sports as a kid but then just stopped because they didn't have time anymore? They need different exercises, right? If you wanted to build, let's say, a fitness app where you give kids exercises. So same thing for like women, fitness for women. One more level down is fitness for women who are moms. This is different than fitness for women who are grandmas, fitness for women who are like 13, fitness for women who are pregnant currently or whatever. And what do they want? Do they want to become more flexible? Do they want to have better cardio? Do they want to lose weight? That's all very different. So here, then that's like one level deeper. And then finally, it's like, this last niche is kind of optional. So this one's like fitness for women who are moms who want to lose weight that they gain during pregnancy. In your case, like if you build a fitness app for high school students, it can be a fitness for high school students who are varsity athletes who want to stay fit even though they can't train during COVID, right? That's going to be very, very different than fitness for women who are moms who want to lose weight that they gain during pregnancy. I'm just going to showcase something that maybe is more familiar with you guys, like big companies do this. So not sure if any of you guys have actually heard of Wish, but Wish is a shopping platform. It's mobile based, and how it really differentiates itself is in two major ways. One is that it's very discovery based, meaning that you can scroll through and you don't put a search query. I believe the stats were that like 90-something% of shoppers using this platform bought a product without even having a search query, which means that they were just browsing and then decide to impulse buy whatever they saw. Versus Amazon is very, very search based. And then which also differentiates itself in that it doesn't really target the major cities. So not Chicago, Boston, New York, San Francisco, Seattle. It targets kind of like middle of America, more small town, population is very low. Generally household income is below average. And that's its niche. And it shows in the way that Wish versus Amazon develops its product. Amazon targets major cities. It's very experience heavy rather than price sensitive. And you can see here, this is just me an hour ago going on the two home pages. And this is what happens when I type in wish.com versus amazon.com. Wish.com shows me free to like $8 products, and all like very random. They don't even relate. They're not categorized. It's just a fun browsing experience, kind of like Pinterest. Well, Amazon, this is what happens. I first have to tell them what I really want. If I scroll down, I didn't take a screenshot, but it was like, do you want to shop for electronics? Do you want to shop for moms? Do you want to, I'm not a mom. I don't know why it's recommending me that. Do you want to shop for like toys? Do you want to shop for holiday gifts, Amazon devices? So it's very, very search-based. And you can see that like the cheapest thing on here is like $44, right? Versus like, this is like free, just pay shipping. But of course shipping would then be like $5. So it kind of covers the cost. But just, you can see that this user experience appeals to a different demographic of people. And that's why niching is important, even when you grow to like billion-dollar companies. So this can happen. I just thought this would be like a more easy example to understand. But niching is like just services, products, interests that appeal to a smaller specialized section of the population. And this also means that if you find a new good popular product like saran wrap or a mouse, you can actually niche it down to a specific demographic and create a whole new product and sell it for a much higher price because people pay for targeted solutions. And so for saran wrap, there's like beeswax, which is more environmentally friendly. So it might appeal to Gen Zs and millennials. I'm not really sure. I don't really use that. And mouse, you can have like an ergonomic mouse that might appeal to office workers, or you might have a like gamer mouse that like lights up and can click faster. I'm not really sure either. So moving on to the second step, now that you like have your niche, moving on to like ideation. This is kind of the easiest part because I think most first time entrepreneurs actually just start directly into the ideation stage. You already think about like all these possible things and cool things that you can build. So I'm sure this part is really, really easy for you. So I'm not going to go deep into this. Something that we like to use is a design criteria canvas. And this means that like, what are some must-haves, should-haves, could-haves, and things that you don't want to have for your product or service for that specific customer niche. It's also important that you have to do some user research. Usually if you had more time, you would conduct some interviews, some surveys, go into like forums to read about how your customer niche is interacting and behaving. And then after you're like, okay, here's their major problems, here's some like good to haves, you know, and go down. And this just helps you build a very like customer driven solution instead of what you think is cool. Step 3 is building and launching. So what this means is that you're building a minimal viable product. And what that means is that it's very, very minimal and it's something you can build super fast and you want to test it with the audience. So why is this important? You don't want to waste time and resources building features that are not core. So you guys are in school, you guys are time limited, probably if you want to launch a side hustle and actually build a startup. So you really want to make sure that all your effort is being put into the right area. A lot of first-time entrepreneurs make the mistake of just hiding in their basement and coding something and building it for a whole year only to show it, and then they just wasted a whole year because no one wants their product. So the goal here is that make it really short and get it out to customers ASAP. Do you guys have like annotation?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so I think this would be like kind of just a fun exercise for the few of you guys here is that what do you guys think Airbnb's MVP looked like? So annotate whatever you want, like a star or whatever it gives you, a circle, next to what features you think Airbnb had in their MVP, or just type it into chat because, oh, I have annotate. Annotates in the bar. There's like new share. I have pause here, but annotate.
Yeah, I think it's under exit full screen and annotate. But I think when you annotate, I'll annotate on everyone's screen.
No, that's fine. That's
Okay.
what we want.
Okay.
So pick stamp when you annotate, and then there's like a star. Just click star. Here, see how I like,
Yeah.
oh, how to erase. What do you think Airbnb had in their MVP?
Oh, in the chat, Luca says a website,
Yeah, website
information
on location. I can't tell if everyone else in here just like doesn't know how to use annotation or. Second.
Or you guys can also unmute if you guys would so choose to.
Cool. Well, I'm going to move on. So what? Oh, the annotation stays. I didn't know that. Here, I'm going to erase these two. Okay, so what Airbnb's MVP actually looked like was that they just wanted to test the hypothesis, will strangers pay to stay in a house? So they didn't actually need very much. They just needed a website and it was like a Craigslist. They just rebuilt a Craigslist. And Airbnb, the Air actually stands for airbeds. So they just offered 3 airbeds in their own apartment. So they didn't need a platform for actual homeowners or those that wanted to rent out their place to be able to list on the platform. So they just like made a very basic website, said that they have airbeds to rent. This is actually like a second version where you can like list your airbed But for them, they just listed and they were like, okay, who wants to come during this conference time? So it wasn't like you can actually filter for dates or locations. They only had one location, one date for the conference. And it was just to test whether strangers will pay to stay in their house. And 3 customers did agree because all the hotels were booked out. It was like a major tech conference in San Francisco. And then they each agreed to pay $80 per night. So that at least tested that, okay, strangers, they're okay with staying in strangers' houses. Now, after that hypothesis is now proven, what can we do to like get more listings on the platform? What you can do actually is not build and still test something first. So there's a few ways to do that. You can do a marketing test. You can do it manually. So for example, if you wanted to build something like Lunch Club AI, which is just matching 2 people up for a lunch together, instead of building the whole algorithm on matching things automated, you could just message the other person what date for them to meet is, just to start to see if people actually want this thing. And also you can use no code. There's a lot of different products out there from like Bubble. So you can build a website really, really fast instead of coding it yourself. It allows you to have back end workflows really easily too. Just remember that your main goal is to get MVP feedback as soon as possible. Here's another example of a really top company and what their MVP looked like. So the hypothesis back then, so Dropbox, this was even like before my time when they like launched this. I used Dropbox when I was in school, but before that, they said people would switch over to a new file management product if we provide a seamless user experience. At that time, in order for you to like give a friend a file, so let's say in school, you're like working on a project, like a PowerPoint slide, you had to like USB or like whatever the thing before USB is, that's all CD, the little floppy disks. I don't know. That was also before my time, but so you had to do that. And I remember passing things along with a USB stick, or because like the files for emails, it was too small. What you're allowed to send was too small for you to actually send big files. So Dropbox really wanted to fix that. The people experiencing this problem were just the people in school. I think usually at companies you want to collaborate, and it's really, really difficult to do that, and that was their initial niche. So the founder didn't know for sure, so he decided to test it in parallel to actually building it, because building something like this is really hard, because building a bulletproof, scalable, cross-platform cloud storage architecture was really hard back then because it didn't exist yet. So the biggest risk is making something that no one wants. So what Dropbox did is that they created a video and posted it on Dig. Dig was the Reddit, I guess, of the day, or a specific one for a lot of developers. And they tested specifically, does Dropbox have a market on Dig? Because their initial customers were all on this platform. And their initial video was just more about like, this is how it would work, dropping files around. I think they probably edited it a little bit to make it seem like they already had a product, but they really didn't. And what actually happened was that as soon as they uploaded the video, they got 12,000 digs, which I guess were likes at the time, and beta waiting list jumps from 5,000 to 75,000 in one day, meaning that 70,000 people signed up just from this video. And now they have already a wait list to sell to, and now it's okay for them to go build their product. And what they've learned is that biggest risk, making something that no one wants. Not launching is really bad. So it's painful when someone says, oh, I don't want your product, or you realize that your product isn't desired by the market, but not learning is fatal. You want to put something into users' hands. It doesn't have to be code, and get real feedback ASAP, because like Dropbox, they just put a video on how the product would work. And know where your target audience hangs out and speak to them in an authentic way. So Dropbox knew that their initial customers were on Dig. Maybe your initial customers are on Discord. You just have to know and see from there how many sign up for your pre-launch list. So now I'm going into how BetaCamp did it. So for us, we saw a gap in high school education. We didn't think that there was a lot of guidance around clarity and clarifying what you want to do in the future. Really understanding all the jobs out there. Even though the internet is really wide, you don't really know what you don't know to search up. So that's something that we wanted to provide. All the different types of jobs, even 10 years ago when I was in high school, the jobs that are most popular today didn't exist 10 years ago. So how can we predict what will be popular in 10 years, and how can we set ourselves up for that success? So that's one gap. Another gap is a community and like a huge network. I'll talk about soon why that's super, super important to start building up early on, even before you need this network, because that network will pay in dividends later on and help you a lot more. And participating in events like hackathons is also really great because you get to meet people all across North America. And expansion of skills and mindset. I think that this gap that we saw here was being too fixated on getting good grades, getting into a good school instead of on the learning experience. And I didn't really see why some of the really valuable skills that you learn much later on your first job isn't taught earlier on, so that you can continue getting these great experiences earlier, like internships. So we saw this gap. We wanted to build a program to fill that gap, and we wanted to test whether there was demand. So all we did in the first weekend was we built a website on Squarespace. It took us a day or two to get all the copy, the messaging together. And then we created a poster, and we just sent it on WeChat and parent groups. And I don't think we even created an Instagram yet. It was just through word of mouth, through parents, etc., sending it out. And then we created a WeChat group chat. And we just wanted to see whether people would sign up for an information session. And within a day, we had 180 parents in the group ready to attend an information session. And so we're like, okay, this is probably gonna work. Then all we did was run an information session. And then we started slowly to reach out to schools, to get into newsletters and posting on Facebook and Instagram and on LinkedIn, etc. And so we ran a summer program. We built this program after we had already actually brought in 70-something students, and we had collected their payment. We're like, okay, now this is what they signed up for. We had a month to build a program. We built a 90+ hour program for the summer, and it just walks through all the steps around building a startup, a revenue generating startup. We highlighted what we wanted kids to take away during those times, and in between we also had workshops like it's really important to have good teamwork skills. It's really important to embrace rejection before sales. So we have really soft skill workshops interspersed around there as well. And why networking is super important is that it was really, really easy for us to launch this initial version, is because I come from Silicon Valley. I've been there for 4 or 5 years, and my co-founder went to Wharton for her MBA. And then so she knows all the East Coast she has all those East Coast connections. And together we brought in 60+ camp counselors from all these great companies to come teach the lessons. And this is all network that we had before. I didn't need to scramble and make new connections when I already had an ask. These are all friends that we made through the years from school, from summer programs back when we were in high school. Legitimately, one of our camp counselors who taught an MVP lesson, she and I met in my grade 11, so junior year summer at a summer camp. So these connections will go really far, and that's why it's important to make them now. And so let's go back to this iteration is key. We collected the data. We knew that people wanted it. We saw these gaps. So created an idea. We built an MVP, which was really just a website, launching it, getting traffic first, and then we launched it. And then now going back to the data part, we looked back at, do we help campers actually launch revenue generating businesses? So over the summer, we launched 12 startups in teams of 5 to 6, I think 6. So all of these actually startups over just 6 weeks, 4 weeks of actually building, because the first 2 weeks were about fundamentals and networking with each other to figure out who you want to be on a team with. We actually managed to get all of them to have initial customers or initial partnerships. So for example, local Steer Clear signed a local Dollarama store in Kumon. Local Bundles had 7 restaurants signed up to become customers selling bundled gift cards through their platform. Teach Adapt runs workshops to help teachers improve the virtual learning experience. They ran 5 workshops. And now, oh, actually not now. And then we also collected a lot of testimonials, some of which you see in the email that we sent out, just to show for us, like what we needed to improve on. We took feedback after every single lesson, and you just continue iterating to make lessons better. Like, how long should lessons be? How much interactive activities should a lesson be? How do we create just enough structure to help high school, middle school students actually successfully launch a startup? So through this experience, we have a fall program that's going on right now, and we stretched the 6-week program out to 12 weeks because it's running in parallel with school. And we are on week 10 right now, and one startup, which launched in week 4, because that's when it generally starts, already made $200 in pre-sales just this week. We've had 3 startups actually monetize, so that's all really, really exciting. They range all the way from like quant trading algorithms and allowing people to bet on quant trading, all the way until Discovery creates more like physical products. What else do we have? We have a lot of like gaming, Twitch competitions, and hackathon pools. So all really, really exciting stuff. I think that's like the end of my presentation, because I just showed you how I myself used this iteration is key structure in order to create a startup, but also why each stage is really important, no matter how big or small your company is. So hopefully you remember, let's go back here, this as you go on to create your own startups this weekend. And now if there are any questions, happy to answer them now, or you can just email me at ib@beta.camp.
Ivy, this is a crazy presentation. Thank you so much for hosting this. I myself have one question. For like, I know how you were talking about previously how you establish these connections with all these crazy businesses. So do you have any like key tips or takeaways that you have on how to establish these connections, because you truly don't know where someone is going to go in the next 10 years? So do you have any like key tips on establishing these relationships with other companies?
Yeah, I think the number one is that you don't want to build any relationships where it's all for like gain. I think the most valuable relationships are where you didn't really have that intention to ever like need to utilize it. That's why actually as a student, up until you're in like 3rd or 4th year university, when you're actually like have an idea, oh, you're going to go intern at Google now, or like you're going to go to Facebook, etc. But before that, it's all like pretty innocent relationship building. Like you go hang out with people because you enjoy hanging out with them. And that's why it's actually so valuable to keep that in mind, that you just want to treat everyone the same, because you just never know. And even when you get to your first job, like you don't want to just schmooze your manager, because your peers and those under you, they will, like in school too, when you're in, let's say, a senior in high school, you're going to have freshmen and sophomores as well, and you're gonna want to act all senior to them. But the thing is, like, they also grow up, right? That they will also go places. So I think that this is something that you don't realize until later, that like all your connections are really important, because even if they actually don't end up going somewhere, but as long as you go to good schools, you're going to surround yourself with really great people. But even those that are not maybe useful to you, or might not be useful to you in the future, they will have their own network of like cousins, or like their past like classmates or whatever. Like your 2nd and 3rd degree network is also really, really important. So that's one. I think I'm actually reading a book right now, and I'm even learning things through it. It's called Never Eat Alone. And it's all about like how to maintain and like build up your network. So I really, really recommend that book. But I think as being like in middle school or high school, it's really about like, don't treat anyone. You never know what's going to happen in the future. And you're going to get that piece of advice from like anyone, the CEOs or whatever. They're going to be like, oh, there's one like person that reported to me that was like, I was a skip boss to, ended up being like, you know, the CMO of this place like 10 years later, because your career is really, really long and you just don't know. So treat everyone with kindness and respect. Yeah.
Another question I have is, do you have any ideas on how to create these projects that can connect with everyone?
Sorry, could you repeat this? How do you create projects that can connect with everyone?
Yeah, like any ideas? I can type it in the chat if you can't hear me well.
No, I can hear you well. I just don't understand what you mean by project.
Like suggestions. Like for our hackathon, we have to create projects, right? And we're like grading those projects. So like, do you have any suggestions on those so that these projects can connect with everyone?
Do you mean how do I build a product that can connect different people together?
Yeah, that's good.
Like, how do you build like a networking app?
Um, Wait, what do you mean? Like, can you?
No, I think it's just me trying to clarify. I'm not sure what you
I
mean.
think what she means is like, how do we create an appealing project that will appeal to the user that is beneficial for them, but is like, it's a very interesting app to use, but it's like that initial idea. How do you create that creative initial idea to connect with like different people and the user itself?
Is that what you mean, Sanya? I think that was
Yeah, that's what I mean.
okay. How do you find okay, so that really connects with the user, that the user really wants to use. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, basically.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I think like going back to like the first stage of like collecting data, I think I was like talking about it. This is like the longest part because it is definitely the most important, is this part. So I would like, you can even skip defining opportunity area, but you really need to know who your customer is. And you need to know this person really, really well. And that's why I think it's really hard. It's okay. There's like pros and cons, right? There's the pros of you being a teenager or a student, and you know your demographic really well, because even though everyone has at one point been 13, 14, 15, 16, I don't know how old you guys are, I don't actually remember what it's like to be 14. Even though it's only been like 10 years ago, but 10 years ago you were 4. Like, not sure if you remember what like it was like when you were like in your first years of elementary school either. So you have this, and like you guys are a huge, huge market, right? So targeting students is always a good idea because you know yourself. Building for yourself is always a good idea, or building for people that you're really close to. But so you have insights into the Gen Z high school market, in which like no one else does with a lot of experience. So that's like a pro, right? You can always target yourself. The con of targeting yourself, there's 2 cons. One con is that high school students usually don't have a willingness to pay as much. You don't make your own money. You need your parents' approval. So you always need to consider whether this is something that parents will pay for their kids. But if it is just a hackathon, you're just trying to build a product or a project with some kind of traction and people use it, then you don't really have to think about that too much. But if you're trying to create a revenue generating business, you're going to have to think about whether someone, their parents, grandparents, or whether they can like save for it, etc. And the other con is that for you, like, you know your own problems that you want solved, but if you already knew how to solve your problems, then it wouldn't be a problem. So oftentimes, like, you go into the cycle. One of the groups at Beta Camp was like, oh, we don't really know how to build good websites. Other people don't know how to build good websites. What if we build good websites for other people, but they don't know how to build good websites to start with? So it's really important to not get into that cycle. But I think it's just really important to niche down to a customer. Like, build for this one person, because everyone there is in your life, whether it's your grandma, whether it's your sister, brother, parents, your cousin who's like a doctor or whatever, if you just think about them as a niche specifically, there are hundreds of thousands of them out there. Right now with the internet, you can be interested in like blue Smurfs, and there's like hundreds of thousands of people that are ready to read your blog about blue Smurfs. So what's most important is that you just need to build for that one person. Hope that makes sense. So choose your customer first.
So does anyone else have any other questions? So actually we just posted a raffle form, like and thanks for participating in this workshop. We wanted to thank you guys for coming out today and learning more with Ivy about how to create a startup. And actually, if you guys go through the email, I think that was sent, you can learn more information about Beta Camp itself. So thank you
Awesome.
also. Thank you all so much for attending.
Thank you, Aditya.
Have a nice day, everyone.
All right,
Bye.
thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sanya, for your question. Okay, bye-bye.
You guys can just fill up the raffle ticket form because that's an extra ticket that you get in our raffle for participating in this workshop. Just copy and paste the link into your browser because we're going to be ending the meeting in another minute or so.
Okay, thank you.
No
Bye.
problem. Bye.